say record?
Yes.
Okay, welcome very much to ACAP. We got 6, 7, 8 people here. And this is November 1 of the year 2010 in the Christian era. And we got as our speaker tonight a person who, Burton Aldrich. And he's billed as a medical marijuana activist and or patient. And he's got words to say about the curative properties of marijuana and hemp oil, which is very meaningful in terms of what's emerging in the society of reinvestigating our attitude toward putting marijuana on Schedule 1. And it's coming up in the election season and so forth. So without further ado, welcome very much, Burton Aldrich. He's going to talk to us about his situation. So take it away, Burton. The camera's over there. Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Let me introduce myself. Once again, I'm Burton Aldrich. I'm the father of 5. Somebody asked me who I wanted to be known as or identity, and it's something I go through a lot. But being a father has a lot of responsibilities to it, and it's something that I don't know, comes from the liking of my Indian roots, is to think of your children and your children's children. That your actions are not only about yourself, but about the future. I grew up in the foothills of the Catskill Mountains, on a small farm. Went to school, public school. I got kicked out because I was a troublemaker. School was just not enticing enough, wasn't intriguing, didn't have any challenge. Ended up going to 3 years of Bible school, got married, and started a family life. And when I was 36, it seemed like life just wasn't, I don't know, what it was supposed to be. It's like there's just something more, there needed to be something more to life than going to work, doing a job, coming home, taking care of my family. About a week after that, I dove into my backyard swimming pool, and I fractured C5. And immediately knew that my life was messed up in a way that was beyond my conception at the time.
Try to speak up if you can.
C5 is a vertebrae that's about here, and of that fracture, normally you're left with limited arm movement and almost no finger movement. Fortunately for me, I'm classified as C6-7 incomplete Asia B, which means that I have sensation below my level of movement. I can wiggle my toes, wiggle my feet, different feelings, and my fingers work somewhat well. You know, able to do what I need to do. I just don't have a lot of strength and endurance. So take it forward 3 years from the injury. I was living in an institution, and I have dealing with a lot of spasticity and a lot of neuropathic pain that was going beyond the bounds of the medicine that was being prescribed to me. I was prescribed 160 milligrams of baclofen, 36 milligrams of Xanaflex, 10 milligrams of Valium, 3,200 milligrams of Neurontin, all trying to reduce the spasticity and the pain that wasn't going away. And actually, an hour before my pills would be due again, the pain was more intense than I can imagine. So, then if I took nothing. Or at least I didn't know, because I was never off medications. One of the things that I realized coming into here, and somebody was like, oh, I gotta get my pills, as that brief breath of relief that I have now. I used to be in such fear when I would go places if I didn't have my pills, because if I didn't have my next dose of pills, the side effects were convulsions, seizures, and death.
Good grief.
And it's something that I had experienced 12 hours of without my medication. And it was something that I don't ever want to repeat. You know, it's just the most horrendous, excruciating hell I have ever been through. And it was before I knew about marijuana. So it was something, you know, I knew was traumatic.
If you didn't have
If I didn't have my medicine for 12 hours, my body would turn into a living hell.
Which medicine are you talking about?
Baclofen. Baclofen.
And you're on it?
And it took me 9 years. Well, let me say, it was 3 years before I found marijuana. I was coming home from a ski trip. I had just taken my meds, but I was still cold, I was still chilled, I was still hurting. And my friend goes, well, I got a joint. I was like, well, I don't know. And he says, it works for me. So I took it, and on the first inhalation, it just felt like this warm breath just went through me, washed away the chill and the cold, and as I exhaled, my legs just went, phew. And I realized that all of the pharmaceuticals, all were bullshit, and that in a simple puff,
You mean your legs went?
I was-
You mean the spasms?
the spasms, that tone,
just went
that
off.
tension, that kinetic energy that's
The relaxation, it's.
to just, I mean, just imagine being on the edge of a starting block on a get, set, go,
Okay.
and you're already past the get, set, you're on the go.
You're just like, oh,
That's how your body is, but now you've got these electrical impulses that are firing, that are saying, oh, we're gonna jump, and you don't have control over that. You know, I mean, it's just, you know, because you've got that kinetic energy that's there. And so you're feeling constantly that build up, release, build up, release. You know, and it's just, so it's like, you know, just, it's always on your mind. And then you get the pain that, because of the sensitivity, neurosensitivity, which is a benefit. That's something I will say, the pain is a benefit because I'll never have a pressure sore, because that little tingle of pain always keeps me moving. And you know, so it's like, there's benefits to everything. Pain is not, you know, something that you should completely ignore. That's why I don't take pain medications for my shoulders. If I'm ignoring the pain that's there, I'm going to do more damage. And that's not what I'm looking for. And that's not what marijuana does. If anything, marijuana takes away some of the strength I have through tone. And so it's a nice option. If I want to work on my tone, do some exercising, I don't smoke. And I have the strength. I have the ability to, you know, stand up, to push and stand up on my toes, to do these different things. If I want to relax, I smoke. If I really want to relax, I eat. One of the things that I haven't been able to do yet for an extended period of time is to try the hemp oil itself, the THC oil. Because what I really feel is that on a strength and on a certain level, what they found in rats in Washington is that at a certain level, neurogenesis begins when your body is overwhelmed by enough THC. So I already believe that neurogenesis is going on through my mind power and willpower and belief, and so how can this, you know, only more helping. The other thing is I need, coming up to date with the issues of what brings me down to the city, is a year ago, due to the necessity for me to have marijuana, I had to sell. It started out by getting it for other people that needed it, and it grew eventually into something for business. But, you know, for me, I was, the cops asked me, why were you so busy? I said, because I was honest. And they're like, what? An honest drug dealer? And I'm like, well, I had $5 pot, I had $10 pot, I had $15 pot, I had $20 pot. Because if I got it cheap, I wasn't going to turn around and rape people because it's their medicine. You know, this is something that is, I'm a caregiver, you know, so if I can get it cheap, then you get it cheap. You know, I mean, it's what it's meant to be, it's, you know. And I made some on, you know, to provide my own medicine.
It's an honest deal.
I guess, if you want to say that, there is an honest dealer. It's just like one of my friends said he was an honest lawyer, you know. But I've met a lot of honest dealers, you know. That's not bad mouth dealers, because the only reason they're bad mouth is due to these insane laws that are in place, making it illegal. No, I think I had a point somewhere, but...
What did they do to you?
Excuse me?
The police.
Oh, the police, yes. So anyway, I got raided, and I was charged with felony sale to a minor, felony possession of 9 ounces, and UPM. I took a plea bargain on the first charge, which was the best offer that they were going to give me, on the selling to a minor, and that a year of intern probation, it would be reduced to a misdemeanor. So, you know, I figured I'm not a violent person, I can stay out of trouble, and hopefully I'll have a little warning and I can get some of the oil and prepare. A week into my, I met my probation officer, who listened to me and said, well, you know, your medicine is illegal in the state of New York, and that I will have to violate you if you continue smoking.
Huh.
And I was like, well, what are my options? She says, well, you might as well just go back to jail. I don't care if it's 4 months or 4 years, but you need to belong in jail, not probation.
She was up
So
to
that was
it.
my attitude that I left. No, the last thing she did say to me was, don't worry, I will violate you. So that was a nice closing comment from her.
Oh, she loved her job.
Yeah, so Wednesday morning, I had just finished stretching, and my medication was still out, and the aroma was still in the air of the relief that I need to be able to go through my range of motions in the morning and do my stretches. The resistance and these spasms that fight it.
So when
She
the
opened up the
spasms
door.
are gone, then you can stretch better.
Yeah, it's like, you know, when I'm not fighting this leg, I can lift it up easily, put it over here, and I can turn and do this. But when I'm fighting, it's like my leg is standing on the floor, and I'm not going to move it no matter what. You know, and it's just resisting.
So you
You know,
can't
step.
exercise.
Right. So my aide trying to stretch me or do range of motion with me, she's building up some muscle. But you know, when I smoke, my physical therapist and my aide are the people that are closest to me are the ones that are the strongest advocates behind backing me, because they know the difference in my
Excuse
body.
me, everybody, when you speak, try to speak up because it's just recording on the mic here,
So
if you
you
can.
can't build up muscle tone when you're smoking marijuana? Is that what you're saying?
It reduces the muscle tone.
It reduces muscle tone. So
Yeah.
it seems
The
as though
total
muscle,
relaxation.
total relaxation.
Total.
So you
But it's not total. I mean, depending on how much I smoke, how much how much is in me is how much my tone is reduced. You know, I don't have to be totally comatose, you know, flat out. I just smoke half a joint, and you know, I'm comfortable. Pain's gone, but I'm still a little tight. And, you know,
You're in for it.
I could smoke a couple more joints to get totally relaxed, but you know, I mean, it's just the tolerance is built up the way I've got.
But so your aids help you when you're not relaxed to build up muscle? That's what.
No, it's more of range of motion, keeping my muscles from being locked up from contracture, you know, because you don't want contracture to build in, because then the calcium buildup locks the bones in place, and you can't move them anymore. And so,
That's what happens to old people.
old people or people
I'm sorry, sorry.
without don't move. I mean, you know, without volitional movement of your legs
Is
or
that
your fingers.
arthritis?
No, it's just paralysis. So having that daily exercise, and the other thing is when I'm done stretching, it reduces my pain by, you know, phenomenal amount for a couple hours. Because it's,
Have you considered going into the ministry and telling your Christians that God made this stuff and it's good?
it's something that I've thought about.
They're coming to
try to-
him.
You know, people, one of the things, you know, is being able to, in my position, you know, older people that, you know, are like, you know, told by the doctors, check out marijuana, and they're like, well, who do I ask? Do I ask the guy with the dreads walking down the street, or,
It's
you
a
know,
good choice.
or, you know,
That's a good
or this guy with some gray hair that's in a wheelchair has got a little experience, you know, so, and I feel, you know, one of
Yeah,
my,
you could be a minister. You've apparently got the credential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of credentials, as a matter of fact.
Try and speak up if you can.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
No, it's all right.
A lot of credentials. Why don't you speak to some of your credentials?
well, one of the benefits of being, see, one of the things that I would say my motto in life is to find the light in the darkness. And if there's too much light, Mason Gardens. But in the trauma center, there was a woman by the name of Carolyn Corbett who came in as a writing teacher. And I remember the first day vividly, I'll never forget it, because she handed me this big black book with these empty white pages. And it scared the hell out of me. Since then, I've got 4 of them filled. I'm lazy the last couple of years, but I got a lot of excuses. But the gift of being able to put down on paper feelings that I couldn't express, answers to questions I didn't know through writing, was a gift that was beyond what I ever could imagine. Then, due to people in the environment, being Peter Bass, another wonderful music director, he's a professor at NYC, and he works at the trauma center with all these injured people. And what he did is he was able to bring the voice out that is within me. This is not me, you know, there's something in every one of us, every single person. You have a mission, you have a purpose, you have a voice. Let it be heard, you know, whether it's through being a producer, whether it's through the arts, or whatever it is. It's just, you know, find what that is and do it. And, you know, everything works in. You know, life is very magical. It's a trade-off. I've seen a lot of people in wheelchairs with very beautiful women. I don't know if that's a trade-off or a curse. You know, life is very magical if we just let go. Because a lot of people are like, I'm hanging on. I'm saying, let go. The ground's only 6 inches away. What are you scared of?
Your poems, any of the poems reflect what you're talking about in the last 3 minutes?
Which part? Dealing with the life in the sun, because that was pretty much the majority of the poetry. And then later, you know, I mean, it's like, okay, I'm lazy now, I'll write something, or I'm really depressed and I'll write.
Well, you talked about this voice that was coming from within you, and I wondered if you had ever put any of your poem to that voice that
Yeah, and you know, if you look up on the website, words from the unknown or something like that.
Did you memorize it?
I cannot memorize a single one.
Not even one of your own songs?
No.
I love it.
He smokes too much pot.
What I can do is create new poetry, but
Oh, a rapper.
a spoken word, or
Okay.
you know, the magic of, as I say, the old Scottish bard, or you know, that Irish.
Do you have it in you now?
You're putting me on the spot.
You are.
But in another time, in another world, if you could just take away all the hustle and bustle of the outside streets and just allow in a different type of attitude. As we look out, you see the plants and the trees and the bushes. Allow that to come in and then to take over as the grass grows around our feet and we settle down. And we imagine New York City a long, long time ago. There were nothing, just Indians, and a few people searching here and there for forage among the stones. And someday, 1,000 years from now, there's only going to be 1 or 2 people foraging for whatever existence. So
How's it feel?
nice.
It sounded beautiful.
It was something that was really a blessing, because it's something I'd always been jealous of as performers. You know, the ability to have a guitar and just to express themselves through song, and women are attracted to it. And I find as a poet, you find the darker people that come to you, the ones that are, you know, because that's what poetry is. Poetry is going into the depth of life, and you know, the sewers, and making, you know, something beautiful out of it, making tomatoes.
The murky unconscious.
Yeah.
That's what you're looking at. it's hidden.
Yeah, there's just, now within everything, we get away from that context of good and evil, and bad and beautiful, and ugly, and rich and poor, and, you know, because
So I've got one for you that's utter delight.
it's,
How do I love you? Does anybody know it? It's Elizabeth Barrett Brown's.
Let me count the ways.
How do I love thee? Let me count the ways. I love thee to the depth and breadth and height. My soul can reach and feel outside. For the endless of being an ideal grace. And then it goes on. But at the very end,
I'm down in the city.
and if God chooses, I shall love you better after death. That's Elizabeth Barrett Brown for you. And this is.
Do you write, do you write anything other than poetry or just poetry?
rants, sermons, I guess you could say, or, you know.
Yeah, sermons, yeah, in churches, yes. But even you can make them pay you money or at least do an offering.
No way.
to them.
No, sorry,
Somebody needs to
sorry.
listen.
I don't like money.
So
Well,
what's your background?
We should have the Burton Aldrich
Yeah, I agree, Russ.
collect fund. No,
See,
they-
see, the reason I bought a house is, with a house, I could take my money and my income and put it into something so I could provide a lasting institution for people. Because before, I was just giving my money away to anybody that wanted it, or not wanted it, but needed it. So, you know, I mean, it's like.
Where did it come from? Did they give you
Well,
money for
back-
falling in your
back
pool?
Back when I went and became management at the textile factory, as a maintenance supervisor, there was a $3 option to get a disability pension. I was like, what the heck's $3? You know, people play a lotto, so, ta-da.
Ta-da.
It is, you know, I can afford a house, I can just afford a house. You know, I can't really afford to fix up that quickly. I can't do a lot more, I can't really afford my medication, but I'm happy because life has a way of working things out, in little nooks and crannies and those, you know, unfilled. And so it's very nice to have my, you know, I hate to say it, my piece of the pie, but I feel more of a caretaker there rather than someone who's been given domination over the land. You know, the first thing I've done is gone through the woods, trying to clean it up, trim out some of the things. So it's like, when I pass on, something is left here that is more beautiful, and it's been taken care of, and it's been loved and appreciated.
Hopefully a good strain of thought that will help people with spinal injuries, because people like you are the ones that do that research.
Right. Well, that's one of the, you know, I mean, I sit home a lot because it's really hard for me to get out. It's painful for me to sit in the car for any length of time. And, you know, it's just, I'm comfortable getting out of my own environment, which is something I need to do more of now that I've been comfortable in my house, because it's very easy to get shut in and to not want to get out there anymore because of the pain and the fear of the pain. And it's not the pain, it's just the fear of the pain. And today, you know, it was like painful, but I made it and it passed. You know, it's like the 3 expressions that I was asked the other day, what were the 3 maxims in my life that I've learned? And those 3 are, it ain't that deep. It ain't that deep. This too shall pass. So you might as well keep on smiling.
Keep on trucking through the fog.
You know.
Well, you certainly are gracing us with your beautiful smile.
So what are the chances they're going to put you in a cell with not even aspirin?
What are the chances? The judge is being very compassionate. Unfortunate that he's a hanging judge. He's known for his taking plea bargains and throwing them away and giving a stiffer sentence.
We heard it.
So it was something that very much concerned me. And so when my lawyer came out of the conference, I wasn't able to talk to the judge, and I don't know why. And he doesn't want to talk to me personally.
I would like to think it's because I went into the courtroom with a t-shirt.
You have love spot.
And Mozart asked for cameras in the court. He put 2 motions before for cameras in the court.
Good.
And I put a lot of publicity in when Joe and I found out that we were going to be before the same judge, we dropped our plans and came rushing up thinking that we would need bail, because he's that kind of guy.
Right. So, but he did say that if I do get violated by my probation officer in the next 3 months, I will go to state prison.
Good
So it's
God.
something very alive in my mind, you know, that I am not free to smoke or medicate whatsoever.
This is outrageous.
It is outrageous.
Really, it's inflammatorily outrageous.
And we saw what happened at M&M today. So,
Yeah, now that's very interesting, and that couldn't be a more enlightened environment. It's all based on fear.
In Michigan, it's legal now, legal enough. My daughter has a medical marijuana card
Right.
now.
Yeah, and I think in the city of Detroit it's becoming legal.
Yeah, I think you may have to go in.
They don't have
and
anything
file.
like that in New York?
They're just not prosecuting crime, any weed crimes in Detroit.
Could you elaborate on that? In Detroit and Michigan, you can get a card that allows you to have medical marijuana? Is
Yeah.
that correct?
Yes.
Is that likely to come out in other parts of the country, and is it moving in that direction?
Well, Rhode Island has, I think, in the voting, the card referendum, that they need necessary to open their dispensaries and get that along the way. I could be totally wrong on that. But New Jersey, I think, is, I don't know if they're producing cards or yet, but it would certainly generate jobs in New York State.
Because
Better than prison guards.
Yeah, really, that's about the choice we're
That's
coming to.
right now with our highest level of employers in upstate New York is the prison.
Yeah, it's a big industry, yeah.
And when you've got a lot of farmers that are going bankrupt and losing their housing, and because their fields are going fallow and can't afford anything, and yet you could be growing hemp there and creating local industry. Because remember back in the turn a couple of centuries ago, in the old mill days, in textile days, this was a haven for textile. There were more textile mills in this area. Every stream and creek had either a flour mill or a textile
you
mill.
have to start thinking of what is are they who oppose doing what you suggested, in other words, having fields filled with hemp plants. Why is the opposition? I'm not talking about the people who are taught to fear. I'm talking about the people
In charge.
who are in charge. What is it that they fear the most?
Loss of control.
Meaning?
Meaning, if you have a capitalist corporate society, you have control over your populace. You dictate to them what their pay is, what their health benefits are, what their pension fund is, everything about them, you're dictating to them. You're a corporate society. You're enslaved. You do not have your own voice. You're an associate. You're an ass.
Oh, sir.
Oh, I'm
What?
glad-
Now, if you take that around and you grow your own hemp, you grow your own substance, and you create an industry around that, that now gives us our freedoms. It is my garden, it is my product that I take into my barn, and I produce it into fiber, food, petrochemical materials, clothing, paper, concrete, you name it, and many multitudes of medicines. Do you not think that the masters in control are afraid?
Well, I hear you so loud and clear, and I'm saying that this is just terrific, because it goes along with my Machiavellian thinking. So the Republicans get in, the Tea Party gets in, the country goes to rack and ruin, and the capitalists will have no choice anymore. And therefore, the idea of hemp, for example, being a whole new industry, maybe we'll start moving out of the box, creating another box.
Well, we have to have an alternative energy source. We have to have.
It's not a new industry.
It's not a new industry, and that's
No,
the great thing about it. It's an old-fashioned industry. It just needs to be
Exactly.
brought back.
They try to,
So
when they
everything
replace
goes-
it with synthetic things.
Popular Mechanics said in 1938 it was $1 billion crop.
We don't even get real food in the United States anymore.
With our
Well,
first
Can I ask you
basis
one
for money.
question?
Sure, Joe.
Again, would you run again, just for everybody here? if you as a medical marijuana patient don't have your medicine, what exactly do you go through?
Well, on the first day, without any marijuana, I don't sleep that night. I have increased tone and pain, but I would say to about an 8 on a level of 1 to 10.
Wow.
The second day, the intensity builds to a point, and the strength of my spasms increases to where if I do have a spasm, I can go prone, which is like straight, which can throw me out of the chair, you know, whichever way.
Wow. On the third day?
By the third day.
And you could have concussion.
Yeah,
Yes, that's.
yeah. Unless I fast. If I fasting, it takes
So
away the
it's essentially
spasticity.
legal.
So,
If you
but
fast, it does what?
it takes away the spasticity. But I mean, a regular, you know, just, but there's more complications to that, because that's one of the things that if I end up in jail, it's why I can't go to a hospital. 4 days in a hospital, I'm in so much excruciating pain that I've got to get out, and it's a downward spiraling pain, which goes into my injury. Because of my injury, I have a condition which is called autonomic dysreflexia. And what that is a warning sign of the body saying, whoa, something is in pain below your level of injury, and you don't feel it, you don't know about it, but I'm going to tell you about it. And you start out with these sweats, and then your blood pressure goes up, and then you get a headache, which is the equivalent of a TNT bomb going off on every heartbeat, and then going away in between. And you're sitting there wondering, how can anybody explain, exist in this pain, and then it comes again.
You're nodding your head.
And you're doing that with the medicine that they would try to provide you from the pharmacy?
I was in a hospital, and they literally opened up their cabinets to me. They
Yeah.
said, what do you want?
Right, and you tried them all?
And I said, I want you to leave me alone so I can tuck my head under the covers and smoke a bowl
Uh-huh.
and go to sleep.
And none of the medicines they gave you helped or
I was on
mollified?
Dilaudid, I was on morphine, I was on Oxycontins, I was on Demerol. I don't know why I was
Yeah.
still existing, other than the pain was more excruciating because of the dysreflexic pain. I mean, it was due to, I had bleeding in my urinary tract, and they put a catheter in that ripped it apart even bigger. And so, you know, I was in just a terrible condition.
What would ever happen to you if you were put in prison?
Um,
Never know.
What would happen?
You'd
I
be a
was
martyr quickly.
Yeah, no, listen,
I would die.
you would die, you're sure of that, yeah, from the pain. Horrible.
The judge knows this?
Well, what happens is I lose sleep because of the pain,
No,
or
I
I
don't
wake
think
up,
it does.
I wake up with the dysreflexia, with this excruciating headache. That's what I wake. Well, I have a split second that I wake up, and I'm like, oh shit, I heard. Sit up, because that's, you gotta lower your blood pressure, you gotta get it back down to get that pain away, because there's a stroke
God.
that's happening. And then the more that happens, the less I sleep, the more painful it is, the more I get the dysreflexia. Then on my bowel movements, I get dysreflexic. Then every time I pee, I get dysreflexic. So without any pain relief, I'm going to be, you know, either I'm going to have a stroke, or
What do the people who open their medicine chests to you with all the Demerol and heroin, or, you know, all that, whatever they do,
Right, more.
say to you when you say the only thing that gives me any surcease from pain is marijuana? What do they say to you?
how much Marinol can we prescribe to you?
Only Marinol, because Marinol doesn't help.
What it does is it takes it to an almost tolerable level.
Okay.
Because that's, when I'm in a hospital, I need 10 milligrams. Well, I probably should need 20 milligrams.
But what do they say when you say the thing that
What do you
helps is,
expect?
what do they say to you, those medical people who are concerned with people with pain, say when marijuana helps and nothing else does, what do they say to the degree that it does help? What do they say to you?
For the most part, they say, excellent, and keep doing what you're doing to legalize it.
That's medical professionals,
Yes.
No,
doctors.
to repeal the
Yeah, I mean,
prohibition.
I had come back from, we're saying the same thing, you don't have to worry. I came back from seeing Senator Larkin with 103-degree fever and went into the hospital, and I saw a doctor, and she said, "What did you do today?" You know, talking about, and I said, "I went up to speak with my senator and make sure he pushed the medical marijuana bill through the committee." And she goes, "Yeah, I know, he did it and he passed it." And I was like, she knows.
She
So that
knows of
shows
what
that
you
a doctor,
speak. Yeah.
A doctor knew that a medical marijuana bill was going through the Senate committee in New York State.
In
So
New
that
York.
gave me some assurance that the medical profession, I mean, they recommend, the AMA has just come out and endorsed marijuana as an effective medicine.
Hallelujah, that's good news, is it not?
The nurses have been
Beginning.
for it from the beginning, because the nurses know.
Yeah,
You know, the nurses
Yeah.
are on-hands people that know.
right,
You know.
right.
They know it's your medicine.
They don't visit.
You know,
her
we're
till
getting
the
more and
second.
more law organizations, police, different ones, you know, that have recognized. I had the cops tell me, "We don't want to bust you." You know, we were
Right.
forced to, you know.
But just a second, Harold, you asked about marijuana. You didn't explain about the side effects of it, and you said it made marijuana more efficacious. Can you
It does,
explain that
it
to us?
helps. I don't take Marinol, even though it makes the marijuana work better, because it has withdrawals.
Oh.
Simply
Do you think from your experience that if they took the properties that give you cease from pain, they could synthesize that into a medicine that
They tried. I mean, well, they can't synthesize it because it's an elixir
Okay.
of cannabinoids.
Uh-huh.
What T-Vex is trying to do in Britain is to take the plant and trying to do it somehow, but it's not a hash oil, it's a tincture, so that you can take and have a spray it under your mouth, your tongue or whatever, and get an effect.
Are you in communication with other people across the country in a situation similar to you? Is there any organization or association of people who are in a similar situation to you vis-a-vis this medical marijuana issue? Is it growing?
No,
Is there
there
support?
is, what there is there's a bunch of groups, I'm going to call them splinter groups because they won't work together, that all have their own aim and agenda.
Why won't they work together, do you think?
Because they're trying to synthesize and make little
Well,
parts.
I mean, everybody has their identity, and,
Yeah.
and they want to protect their identity and their goals, and they don't agree with other people's goals. And so it's not working together as a collective.
Are you talking about the people who suffer pain and have
No, I'm
relief?
talking about MPP and Normal and all of these groups.
Okay, but I'm talking about...
What needs to be done is a group of patients.
That's what I was asking. Is there an association of patients in California, in Oregon, in Iowa, that are in association in terms of presenting the situation as you are?
Some caregiving communities. I don't know of, any associations out there.
Where is the pressure for medical marijuana being legalized, like in Michigan, apparently in New York? Where is that pressure coming from in order to make that change in society?
Well, I think the pressure is coming from the people.
From the people?
Yeah, it's a recognition but it's coming from activists that are out there communicating and making it known the benefits of it. It's Joe doing his work and
Yeah.
Paula, and all
Yeah.
these various people.
Good for them.
Slowly enlightening and getting the story out there.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's every single one of us doing our part.
Has that been part of the medical marijuana, has that been there on the agenda of caring people for some decades, or is it just now surfacing, or
I think
what?
medical marijuana has always been employed to create a environment of legalization.
Legalization.
Well, let's use compassion to get it, legalized, and then it'll make it easier to get further steps on down the road.
To legalize overall.
And in a way, that was a huge compromise.
Actually, Harold.
Yeah, yeah.
That, Joe knows more the answer.
Well,
to
Joe,
that
to
question.
perk up, Joe knows a lot.
No,
Perk up. Do you mind
actually-
put the camera on you, Joe?
No, actually, I prefer to stay on him. because
Okay,
this
He's
man
very good,
is in
I'll say.
pain and needs his medical marijuana, and he's being threatened with jail,
I know.
or he should leave his home and go to another state,
Quickly.
which means he has to leave all the people that provide for him,
Right.
his family, his friends, all that,
Uh-huh.
because of a law that should have never been passed in the first place.
Right.
And I would prefer to call attention to people like him than me. I'm
Yeah,
not-
but
he's
you're
one of
doing
the-
a great, yeah. But he and Paul are part of a network that's
Right.
helping to get the thing changed.
I just remembered one point, which I haven't
Yeah.
brought up at all today, and I need to, because it's very important.
Right.
And what Joe just started segueing into is the network of care that I have for where I live.
Absolutely.
Due to efforts of all of the people fighting on our behalf, I mean by our behalf, the crippled, the Olmstead Act that was passed in '99, which said that you have a right to live in the residential community as much as you do in a nursing home. Up until 2 years ago, that was not true in New York State, due to your money funding. If you were in a nursing home, you could have more money than if you went home. So, you know, they say, well, you're free to go wherever you want, but we won't give you the money. So, in a way, no, you're not free to go where you want.
Right.
But as of 2 years ago, they passed, and they finally organized the nursing home transition waiver. And in that is a support system, not only for head injured people that used to only have a waiver, but now for everyone that is nursing home bound. Be that me, or be that you.
Somebody else coming.
So it's something.
May I ask you a question? Would you like to run for a political office on this issue?
Would I like to run for political office? No. I'd rather manipulate political people because I feel that,
Would you like to be there, out there? speaking
because you
up
get
for it?
tied, your hands are tied with a million other things and a million other agendas. I've always wondered why I can't focus on one thing in my life until now. You know, because I want the whole world to change, and so it's hard to focus on one thing. Where this is my focus now, this is where I need to center it.
Well, you certainly are an excellent speaker, but if you're not interested in, being a politician, then you really ought to be a motivational speaker for people who are handicapped or think they are.
Well, that's
Yeah,
it.
I like that.
Because that was one of the first videos that I watched was this gentleman down in Alabama. He had been a pirate. He was in his quad, and he was sitting out there, and he says, you know the one thing, says, everybody's disabled, but some of us can be enabled.
That's beautiful.
That's a goodie, yeah.
That is really beautiful.
So,
You don't have to remember jokes. You have your own way.
So you say you're interested in larger issues in terms of the whole society? Are you thinking in terms of things beyond the marijuana issue itself? There's a lot of other issues confronting you.
we have a very non-forgiving, uncompassionate society, which is why we don't have marijuana.
Exactly.
That's the root of the problem. The root of
The
the
root of the
problem.
problem is what, do you see? What's the root of the problem?
The root of the problem is that we're afraid
Of love.
of love, and we're afraid to open up and be compassionate to other people. It's a fear. We're safe in our environments. We don't want change to happen. Change is scary, but change is inevitable. And the sooner we embrace it, and the more we make change ours, the less change affects us.
How about being compassionate to the SWAT team? Have you had a chance?
I love them.
Have you
They're
had-
great. They're
Have you
great.
had a chance to sway them? To make them think that?
Yeah, each one of them I was able to talk to. I mean, the detective, he's totally on my side. He was like, dude, keep it above 21 and we'll never be here again.
Is that urgent you're talking about?
Yeah.
One of the things that I was thinking about was, I think that you really might want to start to consider talking to more people.
Well, it's something I do whenever I'm called upon.
You're being
There's a couple of
bold.
professors in SUNY New Paltz that
Yeah.
come in for
That's great.
accessibility
How about a
awareness.
course? How about a course?
And
You can call it, I mean, there are ways of titling, make it title.
probably the course that I would develop is 3 things.
Okay.
Smile, breathe, and feel. It could be 5 minutes, it could be a weekend, it could be a month.
Those are things that apply to everyone.
I could make a seminar out of that. Because a smile is something, whether we smile at our own body, we sit there 10 minutes and just smile at every part of our body. The smile, we can be in the foulest, grumpiest mood. If we open up our lips, it forces our endorphins to be creative, and it makes us happier. Against our own will. If we just, well, whose will? The watchers or? So, smiling is very important. Smile is what, can take that bad, do you want to associate with somebody that's always grumpy and grouchy, complaining and whining? No. This is somebody that's got a smile. Hell yeah, you're attracted to them. They got a twinkle in the eye, boinkle. So the next thing is to breathe. The breath is what keeps us alive. Without the breath, there is no energy. There's no light. It goes throughout the whole body. It travels to the outside of the skin and back out again. It's every breath. We're in the body, out of the body. In the body, out of the body. We can bring energy in and we can bring it out. It's just this constant breath. Through the breath, we make change. Through the breath, we sing. Through the breath, we talk. Our breath is everything that is about us. So, to focus on that and to always keep attention to that breath is so vitally important. We go on for days.
You're doing well.
Yeah, it's
You're
really.
doing very well.
And what was the third?
And feeling. To feel is take yourself outside of the box and say, how does this guy feel?
Empathy.
He just called me an asshole.
Yeah.
He just swung at me. What brought him to that point where he swung at me? And
He's
where
got an
am I?
unmet need, in the words of, what's his name? Paula, the guy?
A
Rosenberg.
tragic expression of an
And now I remember what I wanted
That's
to say before.
Rosenberg.
What I wanted to say before on camera, and I'd forgotten earlier today, was that it's that mirror that other people present to us, and we present back to them, that mirror of whether it's annoyances or things that you bring out an annoyance in me. Well, that annoyance isn't you, that's me. And if I change that annoyance, I'm not annoyed anymore.
Yeah, it's the way you react to the annoying thing, yeah,
Right.
right, that's what's important,
But the
yeah.
only thing
And to
you can
recognize
change-
that the annoyance is not,
But you could
It's
take
not-
that out and say you could suffer all kinds of indignities and you could just retreat into accepting whatever, like some slave-like attitude
well,
toward
there's
the
what's
world.
called smart compassion. I mean,
Mhm,
you
okay.
have to look at the end result of, if my daughter comes to me for money all the time and I hand her 100, what is she going to learn about responsibility? Nothing. You could say, well, that's compassionate. No, it's not compassion. That's pretty stupid. I've done that. They don't learn. They need to get out of a job, and if they need to suffer on the street, they need to live on the street. I lived on the street. It's part of my upbringing. It's part of who I am as a person, if you want to say I have an identity,
Yeah.
but it's what brings me to the philosopher that I am now.
Yeah, you are a philosopher, yes,
So,
yeah.
everything makes up who we are, and it's our acceptance of that. Whether it's, we can whine about other people doing things to us, or we can just take charge and say, okay, how am I going to deal with this situation? This is, as my teacher taught me about air conditioning technician. He said, you give me all the answers. And then he said, you won't have a question.
Yes, right.
And
But-
that's something I found.
How do you feel about a system that is imposing this sort of Damoclean sword over your existence, where they're thinking of putting you into a situation where you'll have no access to anything to relieve, and you might be put in that position? Or how do you feel about others that are in that position, empathetically to others who are put in that position, in terms of medical marijuana, but also maybe in terms of just the inappropriate operation of finance or something like that that's putting them in a desperate situation, such as watching people be put into the oven at Auschwitz as you are comfortably on the outside. How do you relate to that?
My own personal feeling is something that my teacher is working with me to, that I don't follow down that road, because it's a destructive behavior road. So that's my own personal feeling.
Which is the destructive behavior?
Which is saying, you want to put me in jail, and I'll be the money. but that's not,
Right, you want to fight that?
right.
Yeah,
And I
there's,
need to fight that,
okay,
because
good.
that's my personal,
Yeah,
because I'm tired, I'm
Yeah.
done,
right.
you know.
Are you?
I'm not done, but I'm done fighting, or I'm done.
Well, you gotta, you gotta
I'm not
protect
done
yourself from
fighting.
the possibility that she's going to,
Violate you. She said
violate
she
you.
would.
She'll violate you.
That's what she said.
And the judge said that he would show you no mercy, essentially. So therefore, if you wanna fight this, you gotta figure out how are you going to influence two people who really stand between you and, relative peace.
And the society that backs them up in
Yeah,
that
this is
John
so- well,
Valjean
we're not-
behavior.
We're not working enough on that, by the way. This is, I mean, I think that's our responsibility, to get, to be the initiators in society.
That's
To
why,
get
Right,
votes
that's
in
why
our-
the sui juris is interesting,
And
and
that's
the
why-
Constitution is interesting.
but that's why I bring someone like Bert before you.
Yeah.
You people are the media. You people have to get the message out. It's not up, we can only get to so many people, and we're considered hippies. He's considered he's breaking the law, I'm a lawbreaker. The media has to get the message out, has to wake the people up, you know? We can only get to a couple of people, and most of the people that we run into
Yeah.
believe just like
They're in
us.
the choir.
Right, they're in the
Yeah.
choir.
Do you think your rights, unalienable rights as the Constitution is supposed to grant us are being violated by the
Absolutely,
actions of the state?
absolutely.
And shouldn't that be something that's being violated by a lot of people? A lot of people are being violated by the system.
Absolutely.
So this is part of a larger questioning of the assumption of the established order.
Right.
Okay, it's part of a revolutionary movement.
Well, I mean, go ahead.
One question, when Joe was talking about the media and such, and we have to do what we can to make it aware in the public that this has to be changed, these laws. Well, my question is, repeal. What was it that broke the back of prohibition?
It
That-
was a beer cure cancer.
She's got a very interesting point she's about to make.
They spent years before prohibition was passed in 1919, and it didn't last but 12 years, more or less.
Right.
And you had an increase in crime. You had underground money that was exorbitant. The government couldn't touch it.
Exactly.
But you had all the moralists. The suffragettes came in on the wave of prohibition. They came in together. And the women were very much behind the vote for prohibition. But what broke the back of prohibition? That they repealed it and allowed it not to be the demon rum that they had thought it would be. They took all their words back. They took all the laws back. They allowed all citizenry to have booze, which they had had booze before.
Do you know the answer to that question?
I have no idea.
The answer's tax.
Tax?
Tax. That's what I
Now,
told
if-
you.
if the
What's
government-
really answer? I don't know.
Now, if the government repealed it because they wanted part of that illegal booze.
Well, I
that
think
we
in some way, I
do,
mean, was it just...
that all the morality and the high moral value put on society not to drink was just thrown out.
Right.
Yeah.
Didn't matter. The almighty dollar prevailed.
Yeah, they got a lot of
Let us
money
see.
from the taxing.
And then somebody said that when they repealed prohibition, all of a sudden they had all of these out of work prohibition policemen. And so they put it into the anti-drug laws on back of prohibition.
Right.
But
So rather than fixing a crime, they
they
committed another
substituted
crime.
something else. Now, the revenues of illegal drugs has never been anything like the revenues out of booze
There's a lot of,
throughout the ages.
Mhm.
In fact, you had the whiskey tax that George Washington imposed, so he could get the money to pay off Europe for their having armed them against the British. The people rebelled because everybody made their own whiskey. Why should they be taxed for their own whole group?
shade rebellion.
I think that's,
So why should you be taxed if they legalize marijuana for growing your own crop?
Shouldn't be.
And also, why should you be penalized for doing something that benefits you and does not harm society.
You know, I think somehow we have shame. We think
May
it's
I,
all we deserve.
may I intervene there?
Raul's got something to say?
I remember talking to some people in 60s, some of these 60s revolutionaries. They said, they told me, I remember, they thought the marijuana bring a revolution, enhanced the revolution in the 60s.
It does. Marijuana frees people's minds. It alters the programming that they've been
Rebellion,
programmed with. It liberates them. And that's what government's the most afraid of. They want to control everybody's minds. Marijuana opens the door for people to start thinking for themselves. And that scares the hell out of the people in power.
Except if that was true, why after 50 years is it still inaccessible?
No, the question is, why after thousands of years of using it, did they suddenly decide that this was a way to control minds by not using it?
So what about they as us and your spiritual
No,
practice? How do you find
what I'm
that
saying is
spot?
they've programmed, they've got everybody believing, go to work, they've got everybody programmed in your schools how to be robots. When you start smoking marijuana, it's the same like people who meditate. They start finding themselves. When they start finding themselves, they say, well, what makes me happy, as opposed to what does society expect me to do? Do I have to have this job? Do I have to be a success?
They start questioning their role as a serf on a feudal estate.
Maybe
Right.
that's what
Can't
they're
have
afraid
that.
of.
Right.
Is- Well, I mean, one of the things
Right.
is alcohol is
Jackson,
spirit,
knock it off.
which is taken in and takes control of us.
Note the use of the word spirit.
Yes. Where, you know, marijuana,
It's very
on the other hand,
important.
doesn't do that, you know, so it's,
Maybe why it sells.
But, you know, going
so
up.
they're afraid of the awakening, because I look back at my own history, and I say I awoke when I turned 40. But that was about a year, no, it was a year, or after I started smoking. So it's like I'm trying to figure the timeline in. Did my awakening, you know, how long after I started smoking did my awakening come? Doesn't matter, it happened after I started smoking. But I had a serious spiritual awakening. You know, was that from the marijuana? I don't know. You know.
How serious was it? You laughed. That's how serious it was.
That's pretty serious.
No, it wasn't.
You think that was related to your smoking marijuana? Is that what you're saying, or am I
I
off
don't know, it was
base?
just something that
Yes.
just ran through my mind, you know?
Uh-huh.
No, he
It's
doesn't
something you don't
need
have to-
cigarettes.
It definitely didn't take away from my spiritual awakening, because one of the things that I found was the more spiritual gurus that I came to and smoked with, I found that, okay, this is a common bond,
Yeah.
not something that, you know, was where I had to confess on Sunday.
Yeah, but the point, when you say smoke, you don't mean cigarettes, you mean marijuana. Yeah, when you say smoking,
No,
okay.
the